great to be back in Illinois. I continue to be encouraged by the energy, by the enthusiasm we're seeing on the ground. What we're seeing happening here in Illinois and all across the country is we're seeing Republicans uniting behind our campaign. This campaign started a year ago with 17 Republican candidates, a terrific, diverse, talented, young field. And over the course of the year, the field is narrowed. This is now effectively a two-person race between me and Donald Trump. Only two candidates have any plausible path to winning the Republican nomination. Right now, I've got 370 delegates. Donald has 90 more than I do. It takes 1,237 to become a Republican. And what we are seeing happen here on the ground in Illinois and in states all across the country is we're seeing Republicans coming together. 65 to 70% of Republicans nationwide recognize that Donald Trump is not the best candidate to go head-to-head with Hillary Clinton. And if Donald Trump is the nominee, Hillary wins. And you know, I would note that the people of Illinois have been suffering under mismanaged Democratic policies for a long, long time. People of Illinois have paid a real price for the failures of the far-left Democrats. And it is rather striking that my leading competitor for the Republican nomination, Donald Trump, has been one of the key funders of those liberal Democrats imposing failed policies on the people of Illinois. Donald Trump gave $7,000 to Rod Blagojevich. That's a fairly remarkable legacy for a Republican candidate for president. He gave $12,500 to the Democratic Party of Cook County. I know people across Illinois understand exactly what the legacy is of what it means that Donald Trump thinks the Democratic Party of Cook County is an institution he wants to support, presumably because he supports their corruption and he supports their policies. But actually, Donald's contributions to Blago and Cook County Democrats pale compared to his contributions to Rahm Emanuel. He gave $50,000 to Rahm Emanuel. $50,000. And I think the people of Illinois are fed up with the failed policies of liberal Democrats, including Hillary Clinton, who Donald has written check after check after check to, including 2 different checks he wrote, to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign in 2002. That's one of the reasons Republicans are uniting behind our campaign. Because here in Illinois and all across the country, people don't want to nominate a candidate who has been enmeshed in the corruption of Washington for 40 years, has been funding liberal Democrats like Rod Blagojevich, like the Cook County Democratic Party, like Rahm Emanuel, like Hillary Clinton. Instead, we want to nominate and elect a president who will stand with the hardworking taxpayers against the corruption of Washington. That's why we're seeing so much tremendous enthusiasm and excitement behind the campaign.
Senator, over the weekend, you reiterated your support for Donald Trump if you were to be the Republican nominee, a weekend in which we saw rising tensions at his events, violence, Trump himself saying he would consider paying legal fees for somebody who punched a protester. I understand that you will say that you made a promise to support the nominee and you will keep that promise, but at what point do events on the ground force you, or at least have you reconsider and maybe look at your position, given that your rivals have said now it would be extremely difficult to support Trump if you were down?
Well, I can give you one example where I would no longer support Donald Trump. If, for example, he were to go out on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, I would not be willing to support Donald Trump. But I think the best answer to Donald Trump, to his failed liberal policies, to his being enmeshed in Washington corruption, supporting the policies that have caused so much damage, funding open border Democrats, funding the architects of Obamacare, all of which Donald has done. The answer is not to cry in your beer about the support Donald has received, and the answer is not to do what the Washington establishment hopes to do in their fevered dreams, which is they envision a brokered convention, where the convention deadlocks and suddenly in from Washington, the deal makers parachute in an establishment candidate who is their salvation. That is not going to happen, and it would spark an absolute revolt, quite rightly, from the voters. The way to beat Donald Trump is beat him at the ballot box, which is what we have been doing. And that is why our campaign, Republicans are uniting behind our campaign, because we are the only campaign that has beaten Donald Trump over and over and over again, and that can and will beat Donald Trump. Indeed, to date, we have beaten Donald Trump not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 9 different times all over the United States of America, literally from Alaska to Maine and states all in between. And as Republicans continue to unite, we will continue to beat Donald Trump. We will win the nomination with 1,237 delegates, and then we will go on to beat Hillary Clinton in the general election.
You're joking about Fifth Avenue, Senator, clearly, that Donald Trump is, presume is not going to shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue.
Well, he did suggest he might.
Right, but we've seen, you're making a joke, but we've seen violence at his rallies. I mean, we've seen tension, and I just wonder, at what point do you really reconsider? And I'm pressing you on this because it's been an extraordinary 96 hours, I think, in this whole
Hallie, it has, and I agree that is a question that the voters are asking. At what point? At what point?
He's a front runner who's offering to potentially do legal fees for somebody who's
Hallie, I'll answer the question. We're not going to debate. That is a question the voters are asking. At what point do we say enough? If Donald Trump is the nominee, he is a disaster. And the answer is to beat him, which is what we are spending. Well, I know it is a shocking concept to members of the media, a shocking concept that an elected official actually does what he said. At the outset of this campaign, I committed I will support the Republican nominee, and I honor my word. And honoring your word means you actually honor your word. You do what you said you would do. I know that that is revolutionary, and particularly when you've got a candidate like Donald Trump, who changes his position on a given issue sometimes 2 or 3 times on the same debate stage. But with me, I'm very simple. When I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Now, I don't want Donald Trump to be the Republican nominee. I think we elect Hillary Clinton and we destroy the country if Donald Trump is the nominee. And that is why we are working so hard to beat Donald Trump. And we're going to beat Donald Trump.
Do you have a delegate amount, Senator Cruz, here in Illinois that you're aiming for as far as victory tomorrow?
You know, I'm very encouraged here in Illinois. Illinois is a state that often gets neglected by Republicans. And yet, I'll tell you, our support here in Illinois is tremendous. Right now, the polling shows us neck and neck with Donald Trump. We're surging. There are a ton of delegates at stake here in the state of Illinois. And we are competing on the ground. You know, today, the day before Election Day, I could be down in Florida. I could be in other states that are voting today. Instead, I'm spending the entire day here in Illinois. We're doing 5 events across the state because there are a lot of delegates at stake. And we are working to earn every delegate we can. It's going to be up to the men and women of the state. But I hope what we see happens is that Republicans continue to unite in Illinois. And let me say to folks at home, if you're one of the 65 to 70% of Republicans who recognizes that Donald Trump is not the best nominee to go head-to-head with Hillary, that if Donald is the nominee, that Hillary wins, that we lose the Supreme Court for a generation, that we lose the Bill of Rights, that our kids get buried in debt and their future is taken away from them, then I ask you to come together and unite. You know, perhaps you were thinking of supporting another candidate. There have been wonderful people in this race, talented, dynamic people of character in this race. Perhaps you're thinking now of supporting Marco Rubio or John Kasich, both good, honorable, decent men. But neither one of them has any path whatsoever to beating Donald Trump. It is mathematically impossible for either one of them to become the nominee. So if you don't want Donald Trump to be the nominee, there is only one campaign that can beat Donald Trump and that has beaten Donald Trump over and over and over again. And so if you were thinking of supporting a Rubio or a Kasich, I would invite you to join us, to come together. We welcome you with open arms. And what we've seen, the reason why we have beaten Donald in 9 states across the country, is that voters who had been supporting other candidates have come and united behind us because we are the only campaign that is beating Donald Trump over and over again. And we keep winning, by the way, with young people. In state after state, we're winning young people. We're winning working class voters, blue-collar voters. We're winning among conservatives, but we're winning among Republicans that we're uniting together And I'll tell you this, if I'm elected president, we will repeal every word of Obamacare. We will pass a simple flat tax and abolish the IRS. We'll pull back the regulations that are killing small businesses. We'll secure the borders and stop amnesty. And the result of all of that is we will see millions of high-paying jobs. We'll see wages rising for everybody. And we will see young people coming out of school with 2, 3, 4, 5 job opportunities.
So, Senator, you talk about how you always have stronger poll numbers in 2020 against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But by that argument, John Kasich probably has the best head-to-head poll numbers in the general election on the Republican side. Bernie Sanders leads in most of the head-to-head poll numbers overall. So what is the importance of that, I guess, right now? And is it a viability thing why Kasich numbers shouldn't be taken into consideration?
Oh, look, with John Kasich, it's real simple. It's mathematically impossible for him to become the nominee. He cannot beat Donald Trump. So a vote for John Kasich or a vote for Marco Rubio is a vote that's thrown away. John Kasich would take greater than 100% of the delegates to go on and have a path to winning. Math actually matters. And we've had over 20 states vote. Governor Kasich has won 0. When you go 0 for 23, that does not pose a path to going forward and winning. We've got to win. The stakes are too high. Look, this is not a college faculty lounge where we're debating an interesting issue. This is fighting for the future of our country. This is fighting for our kids. You know, my daughters, Caroline and Catherine, they're 7 and 5. When I wake up every day, I think about what kind of country are my daughters going to inherit? Are they going to inherit a country where their whole adult lives they're working to pay off the debts of their deadbeat parents and grandparents? Are they going to inherit a country where when you come out of school, you can't find a job, where your hope and future is undermined? Are they going to inherit a country where the Bill of Rights is a distant memory? And I am convinced the answer to that will be no, but the only way to make it no is for us to come together and win. And the only candidate that has beaten Donald Trump repeatedly and that can and will beat Donald Trump is our candidate. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this race, and I'm encouraged the more and more Republicans continue to unite behind this.
All right, last question. Senator, you're talking about voters saying that enough is enough, but at what point will you say enough is enough?
We are thankful for this Christian testimony.
This race provides a clear choice. The people of Illinois want to support a liberal New York Democrat who has funded the liberal Democrats, who have imposed failed policies on Illinois year after year after year. Donald Trump is on the ballot. If you're a Republican here in Illinois and you want to support someone who gave $7,500 to Rod Blagojevich, I got to tell you, never once was I tempted to write a check to Blago. Never once. That was not a difficult temptation to resist. Never once was I tempted to do what Donald Trump did, which is give $12,500 to the Cook County Democratic Party. And by the way, that's not a cost of doing business. That is supporting the corruption, supporting the failures of the left. And how about $50,000 to the Godfather? $50,000. You know, early in his tenure as mayor, Rahm Emanuel threatened financial institutions to try to force them to cut off the lines of credit to gun manufacturers. It was an act of naked bullying, trying to use political power to try to force these companies to join in President Obama's efforts to take away our right to keep and bear arms. Now, at the time, I wrote to the CEOs of those banks observing that in Texas we had a different view of political power, a more humble view, that we didn't think elected officials should be in the business of extorting private citizens and threatening government power and retaliation against anyone who disagrees on policy. Now, I got to say, the bullying of Rahm Emanuel is entirely consistent with the bullying of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, and maybe that's why Donald Trump gave $50,000 to fund Rahm Emanuel's bullying left-wing tactics. You know, any political candidate who demands the people who attend his rallies that they raise their hands and pledge support to that candidate, as Donald Trump does, in my view, is getting it exactly backwards. Now, listen, the people of Illinois are familiar with that. There have been Chicago mayors who demand fealty, perhaps on the knees, That's a phrase Donald Trump likes. He likes suggesting that people come to him and he makes them get down on their knees. If you like the abuse of power from Chicago Democrats, then Donald Trump is a great candidate. But we live in a country where Americans don't pledge their loyalty to a man. We pledge allegiance to the flag. We pledge to preserve and protect the Constitution of the United States, but we are a country where no man is above the law. And I think it is exactly backwards when Donald Trump demands of the people at their rally that they raise their hand and pledge their support of him. That's an action kings and queens demand of their subjects.
Thank you.
It's also reflected in his treatment of protesters, where anyone who's a protester is disloyal and must be punished. I believe all of us are running to serve the people. This is a job interview. I am asking to have 330 million bosses across this country. And the only pledge that I'm interested in, the only hand-raising that I'm interested in is on January 20th, 2017, when I hope to raise my right hand with my left hand on the Bible and pledge to each and every one of you that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and fight for the hardworking taxpayers.
Do you have a good relationship with Marco Rubio and John Kasich? Do you see them as possible VP nominees if you wind up getting the nomination?
I like and respect both Marco Rubio and John Kasich. They're good, honorable men, and they've run good campaigns. I give them credit for running hard. This was a 17-person field, and to be among the last few standing is a tremendous accomplishment. But every candidate has to assess, do I have a path forward? Is there any viable path to winning the nomination? And if there isn't a viable path, then it's time for a candidate to move on. You know, going forward, look, of course, I can absolutely see a place for Marco Rubio and for John Kasich in an administration. They're talented, smart, seriously. They're people who I came into this race respecting and came out of the race respecting even more. And I think as we go forward, we're seeing more and more Republicans uniting, and Illinois is going to have a major voice on the national scale in this Republican primary. Illinois is not used to being a major player in Republican politics. It's been so dominated and abused by the Democrats. But here, this Illinois primary matters, and the men and women of this state, you have a platform to speak to the country and to say, what do we want? I believe that the people of Illinois want a leader who stands with the hardworking taxpayers against the bipartisan corruption of Washington, stands up and fights for jobs and wages and economic growth and opportunity, and that's what I will do every day as president.
Thank you, Senator.
That was Senator